Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live match preview show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie, and I'm your host for this evening. As they say, there is no rest for the wicked, as Liverpool are playing another game in a matter of days. This time, it's not in the Premier League; it will be in the Carabao Cup, as we'll be facing Southampton at Anfield. So today, we'll do a match preview of this fixture. Plus, we'll also give our reaction to the Ballon d'Or awards that took place earlier on this evening, some talking points, especially regarding Mohamed Salah and other Liverpool players, which I'm sure we'll have a good old discussion about. So let's start with the match preview first, and we can talk about the Ballon d'Or later in the show. Now, in terms of our opponents, Southampton are currently 19th in the Championship in terms of their stats this year. They have won one game, they have drawn three times and lost twice. Uh, in terms of their recent fixture, they lost to Hull City on the weekend, which ended in 3-1, and they haven't won a league game since the opening day of the season, which was against Wrexham. So, not in the best of forms, and of course, facing the Premier League champions. Never a better time, but for Southampton, this is probably the worst time for them to face Liverpool. In terms of the Reds, 100% record, 5 wins out of 5 in the league at the Champions League fixture as well. That 6 out of 6 victorious in the Merseyside derby last weekend against Everton, which ended 2-1. So for this fixture, I think Arne Slot did pretty much mention this afterwards that a lot of the players will be rotated. So expect a team full of squad players plus opportunities for some of our youth players that made an appearance or appearances, I should say, in preseason. So it should be an exciting game to watch where we'll get a mix of the squad and youth players all in one. Now, in terms of team news, Liverpool, as I mentioned, Arstock said that a few players will definitely not be starting. Those players go along the lines of Virgil van Dijk, Ibu Konate, Mohamed Salah, Ryan Gravenberch, and Dominic Szoboszlai. So these five players will not be taking part in any shape or form. So I don't even expect them to be on the bench. Now, in terms of Southampton, no injury issues as of yet. The only person that did not feature in the recent fixture was Flynn Downs due to illness, but he should be available for this fixture. Uh, so it's going to be interesting in terms of their team selection. Are they going to rotate quite heavy, with the league in mind, or are they going to field one of their strongest teams to try and pose a threat against the Premier League champions? So it'll be interesting to see what Will Still does for this fixture. So let's move on and predict the lineups. So we'll start with the away team. We're trying to do it, a bit more easy with that. So I've looked at a few of their recent games. They have played in different formations. They played 4-2-3-1 at times. They played 3-4-3. Um, I'm going to go with 3-5-2, only based on their profile that they have, and I feel like they're definitely going to go with a midfield that's going to try and be difficult to break. So they're going to have it very congested. And with the two strikers, uh, it's like teaser in terms of my team selection, but because there's a bit of inexperience in our back line, maybe they'll exploit that by having two attackers up against Liverpool. So for me, I'm going to go with a 3-5-2 formation for Southampton. Now, in terms of the goalkeeper, it's normally Buznu, but I don't think he'll be playing this one. I think he may get rested. So it will be McCarthy that comes in to starting goal. And then in terms of the back three, I'm going to go for Stevens, who was a bit of a shithouse in the last fixture from what I remember in the Premier League. So it'll be interesting to see how he performs in this one. So he'll be playing on the right hand side. And I think we'll go with Wood in the middle. Uh, not that's here. There we go. Nathan Wood. And then you've got um, Harewood as well, if I can get his right name correctly. There we go. So he'll be in the back line. I'm going to say maybe he may even be rested for this fixture. Uh, I'm not quite so sure. I think they would still need to try and present a solid centre back option. So I think Harold Best will be the one that gets the nod in this fixture. Maybe Ronnie Edwards is someone that comes in instead of his place, but I think this is the back three that will start against Liverpool tomorrow evening. Now, in terms of their midfield five, I'm going to predict it's going to be Roslev, the former Brentford player. He's going to be on that right hand side. And then on the other side is going to be Manning, who, to be fair, decent player, has a great delivery from that left hand side. Very technical. So he will be a player that, for me, will be one of their creative outlets. Will be bombing down that flank and whipping in crosses. Decent at set pieces as well. Uh, I'm going to go with Ryan Fraser, who's played an interesting role for Southampton so far this season. He's played in the centre midfield, but he's also played on the wings as well. So he's going to be their ball playing midfielder, where they're expecting to see some creativity from him, but also maybe some surging runs inside the box. So I think he's going to be very pivotal in terms of how they set up. And then I'm going to go for Downs, who I think will return from injury and play in this fixture. And the other player I'm going to go for is Charles, who uh, has pretty much been a prominent figure in the Southampton team. So I expect him to be in the side as well. So that's my midfield five for Southampton. Up top, I'm going for one of their new signings in Downs, American striker. So we're interested to see how he performs in this one. May not be highly favoured, but I think Archer has always been a tricky opponent for Liverpool in the past. So I think it might be where they play two strikers up top, try to cause havoc to our back line. So this is the predicted Southampton lineup that I'm going for. So feel free to drop a comment and let me know what you think of the side. In terms of danger men, probably looking more towards Archer in terms of being that player in around the box. Manning for me is going to be someone that's going to provide that creativity um, from that left hand side. And then Fraser is more than capable of, you know, creating something out of nothing, but also has that creative spark in him as well. So for me, those are the sort of players to look out for. So yeah, feel free to drop a comment and let me know what you guys think. Just got a couple of comments here from Ozzie. Big up Ozzie, says, "Yo, Ozzie, behind Vitina in fourth is a joke." I completely agree with you, Ozan. We'll talk about the Ballon d'Or awards very, very shortly. Because, yeah, it's definitely erupted a reaction from the Liverpool fan base, and rightly so. But we'll talk about that in due course. Now, let's move on and present the Liverpool lineup. So, this is going to be interesting as some fans will have a difference of opinion in terms of who should play and then who shouldn't play. So, this is what I think will happen in this fixture. I think I'm very much certain that Mamadashvili will start in this fixture. As you know, he's been brought in as an understudy to Allison. So these are the games that you expect him to play in. So definitely going for Mamadashvili for this fixture. On the right hand side, normally I would have gone for Bradley, but I think it would be a good game to bring on Jeremy Frimpong, who hasn't played or started many games recently. So it'd be a great game for him to get up to speed and hopefully challenge for a starting spot in the coming games. On that left hand side, I'm going to go with experience and I'm going to go with Robertson um, to complete the left back position there. And then in your backline, I'm going to go with our new signing, who I'm sure we're all excited to see, is Giovanni Leone. And alongside him will be Joe Gomez. So bit of rotation there. I'm not expecting Virgil van Dijk or Ibu Konate to be involved. So this will be the backline. You've got a mixture of youth and experience. Plus, you've got a live wire and Frimpong to cause havoc on that right hand side as an attacking outlet. Now, in terms of the double pivot, I'm going to go for experience and youth once again. So I'm going to go with Endo as the destroyer in this combination, and I'm going for Trey Nyoni to play alongside him, who's going to be the energy, who's going to be the legs of this midfield. So that's the combination that I'm going to go for. And in a more advanced position, I'm going to go with Curtis Jones, who will be able to play in his natural position, playing as an attacking midfielder, but expect him to drop deep and help out, with his defensive duties. So for me, that's a good balanced midfield there. Now, in terms of the right hand side, I'm going to go with Chiesa, um, who for me Probably plays better in other roles, but even in recent sort of times, I've seen the training footage that came out last week where you had Chiesa and Isak, training together for the first time. Predominantly played on that right hand side, so I feel like that was, a good sort of showing that he can play in that role, um, and is a viable option for that right wing. So for me, Chiesa on that right. Most people play him on the left, but the reason why I haven't placed him on the left is because I'm expecting Rio and Gamoa to play. Unfortunately, he's not on my website here, so I'm going to put Ferdinand in first, and then I'm just going to add Rio and Gamoa. And Gamoa. There we go. Oh bloody hell! You got his face. So let me let me get rid of that. I don't want to see Rio's face at all. Let's go for a local player that is in that doesn't have a face, and then we can just take it from there. Uh, Oh, he's there. Fantastic. Oh, that's a pleasant surprise there. He is in this website that I'm using. So Rio and Gomorrah on that left-hand side. Now, in terms of the striker, who will it be? Will it be Ekitike, who's been in great form in recent weeks? Or are we going to add Isak in the mix? For me, the right decision would be to play Alexander Isak. Now, generally, you wouldn't want to play your main man, when you spend so much money on a striker like Isak to start in a Carabao Cup fixture, but you have to look at the current climate, the current situation, and you've got to put context into it. He hasn't played many games so far this season in terms of preseason for his former club in Newcastle, barely featured for them. And for Liverpool, he's started a game and he's come off the bench for the other as well. So he's still trying to find his rhythm, trying to get up to speed. So I think this would be a fantastic game for him to play. Respectively, it's a slightly different opposition. It's from a championship side, so he should be more than adapt to playing against that sort of team. And also, it might even benefit him because Southampton, I would expect them to be a bit more physical, try and be a bit more aggressive in their play. So if he's able to get accustomed to that and really showcase his talent, then it puts him in a great shape for our upcoming fixtures. So I'm going to go with Isak up top. So, yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think, if this is the lineup that you'd go for, or would there be any changes in the starting lineup? So, for me, this is the lineup that I'm going to go for. Just got a couple of comments here from Dara Azizi. Big up, Dara says, talking of content, Verts is in the same position. It's not necessarily, in my opinion. Verts has pretty much played every game. Of course, he didn't start in our previous game. Um, in terms of form, yes, but it doesn't allow Isak for me because Isak has been brought in very late. Of course, we signed him pretty much on the last day of the transfer window, so he's not had much time to train with the squad. Whereas Verts was a signing from, was it May? We signed him quite early on, so he had a holiday. He had a full preseason, but he's still getting used to the way we're playing. He's still getting used to the intensity of English football. So for me, not really the same kind of comparison with Isak. Isak is in a different kind of level where he needs minutes. He needs to find that rhythm. He needs to find match fitness again. Whereas Verts, it's more of a confidence thing, and maybe adjusting his game a little bit, getting accustomed to the way we play football in England. So different for me. No real alignment in terms of their development or their progress within the team. So for me, I would probably have Verts on the bench. I wouldn't say he's not in the squad. I would rather have Verts on the bench. So for example, if we feel like Rio has worked too much or he needs a bit of a breather, then you can bring on Verts, maybe play him on the left, or maybe bring him in place of Jones or Trenioni, and then Jones can drop to the number 6 role, and then you've got Verts playing that number 10 position. So for me, I wouldn't start with Verts, but I would probably play Verts in this fixture. Maybe play for the last 20, 30 minutes. I think that would be the right thing to do. Um, Double D, big up Double D as always. He says the same projected lineup, same projected 11. James Pearce said still. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, Double D, but I appreciate that. Let me know if that is a compliment or not, because when I hear James Pearce, it's not positive. I'm probably just thinking more about transfers more than anything else. But yeah, thank you for your comment there. Dara said Verts in midfield for me. Not for me, not as a starter. I would like to see Endo get some game time. He's been unfortunate. He hasn't been involved that much. And for me, Jones showed a decent showing against Everton over the weekend. So I feel like it's a good time to start him as well. Find a bit more form going into some tough games. We've got Galatasaray next week, so we need a squad that is fit and ready for those type of oppositions. Dara says, I disagree. Isak knows the Premier League Verts has a long way to go. Yeah, he does know the Premier League, but I'm not sure in terms of. I think you're missing my point here. The reason why I'm not starting Verts is because I would like the other players that have not had any game time get some minutes under the belt. That's the whole point of playing these fixtures. The Carabao Cup ties. It's not just to fill the best team possible. For me, you have to make use of the squad because a lot of these players have been out in the cold. They haven't played much, so this is a great opportunity to get minutes or get a full game under the belt. So when we do play in the Champions League or in the Premier League, these players are ready to come and get involved. So for me, Verts has played, I would say, 4 out of the 5. He started 4 out of the 5. But with that said, he hasn't performed to the heights that I expect that a lot of us fans expect as well. So because of that, maybe a bench role would suit him better, just like the previous game against Everton. So this is just my style. I'm not predicting my bench either, but I feel like with Isak's situation, he just needs minutes. So I think it's important to start him in his fixture because it's a great opportunity to play him in a game that doesn't affect the outcome in terms of points on the tally on the league table. So I feel like with this game, you're playing against a lower opposition, Southampton being a championship side. So that's a great way to, get your confidence up. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to Southampton when I say that. You know, when you're playing against an opponent that isn't quite up to your level and you've not played well in recent weeks or you're under confidence or you're lacking match fitness, those are the games that you try and gain that kind of level. So for me, that's the way I'm looking at it. Um, Verts has a long way to go. I understand what you're saying, but I'm talking about this game in particular. I'm not talking about the bigger picture, if that makes sense. Daz says, "Big up, Ozzy. What's your 11 for tomorrow?" So what you see on the screen is my 11. Uh, that's the lineup that I'm going for. That's my starting 11 for tomorrow. So drop a comment, let me know what you think. WZ says, LOL, now just saying it's the same. No, this my bro. Of course. I'm only teasing, but yeah. If that's what he's predicting, it's interesting. If there was any tweaks to my selection, maybe Ekatike ahead of Isak, but I really want Isak to get as many minutes as possible. So that would be the one that I definitely start in this one. But it is a shout, but I'd rather Curtis Jones gets some minutes under his belt. He's not played that many games in recent times. For me, Rio deserves to start. So, these are players that I feel like are worthy of having some, first team football. And Keynes as well. He's not been involved that much. He's been an impact sub more than anything else. Would be a great opportunity for him to start in this fixture. That's his Maka gets minutes for me. I do agree with that. I just wouldn't start him in this one. For me, he'd be a bench option alongside Verts if we need him. The reason I said if we need is because for me, Mata just looks like he's a bit high, like he looks a bit jaded. So if it's required, then it's good. I feel like maybe he just needs a bit of a breather. So, maybe this fixture is the one that we give him a bit of a rest and we have him ready for the game against Crystal Palace on Saturday. But let's see. For me, it's more, I need him to play with more energy. Um, because he doesn't seem like his normal self. He's not energetic. He's not roaming around the pitch. He looks a bit sluggish in his play. So for some game time work, but I feel like for him, maybe a day off would help him, and then hopefully re-energizes him for the upcoming fixtures. So he'll be an option off the bench. I wouldn't want to use him if I'm being honest. Uh, that said, he said none of the big ones won't play tomorrow. Obviously, the likes of Mo, Dom, Ibu. Yep, that's why they're not even on the bench for me. So the likes of Virgil, Ibu, Dom, Gravenberch, these players are not going to be involved in this game. So yeah, not hugely surprised by that at all. Of course, Mohamed Salah, the Egyptian team, won't be involved either. That was I agree with Isak, but it's also a great way for Verts to get his confidence up. That is a good point, Dara. You are right on that one because with it being a slightly, different opposition, with it being a championship side, it could help in terms of his confidence and his team selection. So it's not a bad shout. I'll be honest with you. Maybe I'm looking at the other squad players where I feel like they've been a bit inactive, and that's why it might be worth playing them first or starting them and then bring on Verts for the last half an hour. Because at least with that, he still gets some game time, and hopefully, even if he comes on and produces an assist or gets a goal, it should, bode well in terms of his confidence. So, if we were to start him and he has a stinker, I don't think that's going to help, and some of our fan base will definitely be on his back even further. So for me, I'm not saying it to protect him. I would rather utilize the likes of Jones, Endo, Chiesa, and give Rio an opportunity to start in this fixture. So that's the way I'm looking at it currently. That was a who. What would your bench be? Oh, interesting. Let me think. So it will be the goalkeeper that we signed, Woodman. He'll be the goalkeeping option there. I'd have Connor Bradley as an option. Maybe one of the youth centre backs in Nalo. I think he gets on the bench. Who else do we have? I'm not sure if he's available, so let me know if you do know in the chat, guys. Bastic, because he has been training, so maybe he's an option, off the bench. Who else do we have? Mm, I'd go for Maka as an option. I'll have Verts. Um, who else? Maybe Gakpo just as a senior option to have. Who else? Dan's. I'd have Dan's in the squad, and then one more. Who else would I go for? Mm, Not too sure who the other option would be. Maybe have Kirkes, just to have a bit of another option, because maybe Robertson will be utilized as a centre back option, and then you have Kirkes as a left back option if we need drive and energy on that left hand side. So that would be my nine substitutes for that fixture. I'm sure there'll be other youth players around as well, um, but I don't feel like you just have to put youth in for the sake of it. Dan's is in the squad, so even for him to get some game time would be very good. So I definitely want to encourage Slot to use him. And then you've got other players who could be options as well. Conor Bradley could come on in play in to replace Frimpong, if we feel like, the full night is too much for him. So yeah, those would be my options off the bench. That's is true, but Jones has been injured, to be fair. Yep, he has been injured, but that's what I'm saying. It's a great time to get him back into the mix, get him full up to speed. So he's available for team selection in the coming weeks. So the best way to do in that regard is to play games and try and get back into that rhythm. So I feel like it's be a great game for him to start. That's it. I would go same as you, then bring Verts and Hugo on from the bench. Yeah, Hugo's a shout off the bench as well. I just thought maybe go for Dan's. But then you've got that's why I place Gakpo in the team or on the bench, I should say, if we need a bit more of an experienced option off the bench. And Gakpo does like the Carabao Cup, doesn't he? He scores a bag of goals in that tournament. So for me, maybe have him as an option rather than having Ekitike. Maybe give Ekitike a bit of a break and have him ready for the next game in the league against Crystal Palace. Darcy, I hope he doesn't go with a weak bench like Plymouth. No, it'll be a mix. I think it'll be more experience than youth, if I'm being honest with you. Because I think Rio and Yoni will be the youth players that will start. So you've gone for Ekitike and Kirkes. I would go with Kirkes and Gakpo as some of the senior players alongside Maka, Verts, and Bradley. So that's plenty of experience in the team there. Who would be the captain? In this team, you'd probably have to give it to Robbo, being the most experienced player there. Jones is a shout, but I'd probably go for Robertson as the captain for this fixture. Now, in terms of my score prediction for this one, I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for Liverpool, and the goal scorers that I'm going for is Isak, and I'm also going for Chiesa to be on the score sheet. So drop a comment and let me know who you think will score in this game and what you think the score line will be altogether. Now, before we close the show, we'll quickly talk about what occurred earlier on today, and that is in regards to the Ballon d'Or. But before I even present anything, I've always asked myself, how is the Ballon d'Or nominations decided? And I did a bit of research and I realized that it's basically a group of journalists from L'Equipe and France Football Select sorry, France will that select 30 male players to be nominated, and then you've got 20 females as well. So basically, that's just based on journalists' opinions more than anything else. And then for the other awards, the likes of the Yashin Trophy, which is for the goalkeepers, and the Copper Trophy, um, those are carried out by 100 journalists from the top FIFA ranked nations. So each journalist from each country will place a vote for the Ballon d'Or. And the reason I've mentioned that is because some of the selections have been a bit crazy in my eyes. Some of them don't make sense, in terms of what the player has performed, and you know, some players above each other where it's not even in the same light. So yeah, it's a bit of a crazy one. Um, but yeah, so in terms of the outcome today, Mohamed Salah was placed in fourth position for the rankings on the of the Ballon d'Or. So he finished behind Vitinha, Dembele, and Yamal. Dembele was the winner, of course. And look, I'll be honest with you guys. For me, that is fully deserved. He does deserve to win this award. So I don't really have any cons with it. And it's a nice story as well because 2 3 years ago, a lot of people would have written him off, suggesting that he's done because he was suffering a lot of injuries during his time at Barcelona, and of course, going over there with such a huge price tag, he thought he couldn't live up to, it, and he couldn't really perform at the highest of levels. And look, 2 3 years later, he's moved on to PSG. He's found his home. He's playing under a coach that has complete faith in him, in Luis Enrique. And look, he's showcased his ability last year, playing the more central role, but can play in different positions as well, and has shown his unbelievable quality that we probably know as fans that he possesses over the last few years, but he's done it on a big scale. And for me, he's definitely fully deserved of this award. So yeah, congrats to Osman Dembele. I feel like it's definitely one where I know Salah didn't win. Don't get me wrong, but if I had to choose a winner for me, it would definitely have been um, Osman Dembele. Now, just something I wanted to put up on the screen, you know, in terms of Salah's, contribution this season. Look, most goal involvements in Europe's top five leagues, he's got 47, and the closest person behind him was Kane with 34. So that's 13 of a difference there. Now, for someone with a tally like that, and to only be, fourth in the rankings for me is crazy and outrageous. And some fans will counter and present the argument that it's not all about stats. Correct, it's not all about stats, but stats does play a part. You do have to put it into context. And for me, he's had a fantastic season. Yes, he hasn't won the Champions League, but he's won the league. He's performed at a great level. So why isn't he above someone like Lamine Yamal, who had 9 goals and 15 assists in his league, and actually went without scoring a goal in 4 months? So if Salah didn't score a goal in 4 months, forget neutral or rival fans. Us Liverpool fans will be losing the plot. So put it into that kind of context where he's definitely being disrespected there, and he's being disregarded for his quality. And I feel like there's other agendas that play a part in terms of why he's not anywhere near winning a Ballon d'Or. So for me, it always takes a gloss away from this awards where back in the day, if you won a Ballon d'Or, you knew you were the best player in the world. Now I feel like there's too much going on. There's too much PR involved. There's favoritism for certain players, and it's quite obvious as well. So it's a shame, and I just feel like Salah always gets the wrong end of the stick, doesn't get the praise that he deserves. So for me, it's always been disrespectful in terms of how he's being ranked in these Ballon d'Or nominations. So yeah, for me, and I'm not cynical. I'm a Liverpool fan. I always feel like he doesn't get the respect he deserves. And look, let's not be around the bush. It is because he's Muslim. It is because he's African. Coming from Egypt. These sort of factors does play a part. And of course, he showed his support for Palestine. Where UEFA produced a picture, and then he reacted and commented on the post. So these little things will obviously play a part. So there's clearly a personal agenda here, in my opinion. Some may argue and disagree, but I think there's something more to it, because look at the sort of the output he's produced since he's been a Liverpool player. His opening season for us, he was outrageous. He literally put his name on the map on that first season alone. It wasn't because he was a Roma player or a Chelsea player. When he became that Liverpool player, he was unstoppable, and he still wasn't, ranked very high in the Ballon d'Or ranking. So yeah, make of it what you will. But for me, it's always been disrespectful in terms of how they've treated Mohamed Salah over the years. Now, in terms of the other nominations, of course, Allison was able to get ranked. He was second in the Yashin Trophy there. Which, look, if you look at the selection there, Donnarumma, of course, will be number one due to winning the Champions League with PSG. Allison at number two, not too mad at that one, to be honest with you. Um, but yeah, of course, you want him to win everything. But yeah, that's understandable in that kind of scenario. And then let's have a look at the top 10. So Osman Dembele, who is number one, and for me, rightly deserves to be there. Lamine Yamal second. I'm not too sure about that one. For me, Salah has to be top. I've has to be second or third for the season that he produced. Batinha for me was phenomenal, so I don't really have too much arguments with that one. I just don't feel like he deserves to be ahead of Salah in the rankings. Rafinha, for me, had a phenomenal season for Barca. Some would probably say he had a better season than Yamal, so that's another argument for another day. You've got Hakimi, Mbappe, Cole Palmer in eighth. I'm just gonna go through some of the comments because I have seen there's something on there. Daz saying Cole Palmer, come on, I don't know what's going on. Honestly, for him to be eighth, remember he didn't score a goal until they faced us last season. So from January on to like March, April, he hadn't scored a goal. And he was not influential at all. But you got to put into context as well. When your team wins the Club World Cup, which, let's be honest, was a glorified preseason tournament, I think it gives them the sort of the notion to be like, oh, that he's won a trophy there, tick box, tick box. Conference League, like who cares about the Conference League, right? But it's one of those things where it's just another bit of silverware, but it's not a trophy that is regarded with with prestige, in my opinion. So I don't know, and knowing that it's journalists that are doing these votes as well, it doesn't make sense. You might as well ask us content creators to do it, you know. And I'm not being disrespectful to journalism, in terms of what they do, because they've had to learn their trade and all that sort of stuff. But end of the day, it's all opinions. So what difference is it to our opinions? Just because I'm doing it on YouTube doesn't mean my opinion is less than anyone else's. So I don't know. For me, it's just it should be where it's done through people within football, so current players, kind of like how we do it with the PFA. Like that's how you should, allow these nominations to be done. And also, I don't feel like there needs to be a category for one player. Maybe it should just be per position now. Best goalkeeper, best defender, best midfielder, best attacker. Because when we do our sort of debates on different shows and stuff, we always do the comparison in terms of like who's the best defender. We never compare Van Dijk to oh no, it doesn't make sense because they're different types of players. So maybe that should be how they change the sort of the structure or the presentation of these trophies, because it's not working for me. So yeah, it's a bit crazy in terms of how these nominations are done. Dances, it's more about politics than football. Yeah, politics, definitely. I think there's more hidden agendas to that as well. But yeah, I agree. Football with ends, big up, bro. Big up yourself, ends, as always. Thank you for your comment. Thank you for tuning. Guys, if you haven't come across ends, where have you been? But please do subscribe to ends, his channel. Great support of the show. And great friend of mine as well. Yeah, appreciate you as always. Just saying hello to Ends. Uh, Double D said Rafinha robbed over podium place. I thought Rafinha had a better season than Yamal. Yamal, it feels like he's the poster boy of football right now. So maybe they feel like, they have to put him in high regards. The kid's 18, so he'll get his time in due course. But you have to look in terms of the context of, what was produced last season. And I thought Rafinha was outstanding last year. So I don't know. I do agree. I feel like it's slightly unjustified. Dan says, "Have I been on your show? Have I been on your show before ends? Have I been on your show before ends? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Um, Ends has been on my shows plenty of times, so yeah. Do expect Ends to come on the show in due course. I'll definitely try and line up a few more collabs over the coming months and weeks. So yeah, make sure to hit that notification bell so you know what type of shows I'm doing, and I expect more collaborations with Liverpool content creators. And I think that's presenting the question there for the chat if they want to let the present their starting 11 for this game. So back to the top 10. Yeah, sorry, Cole Palmer threw me off. That's why I went through the comments because I saw a few of you mentioning that as well. And at number 9, you've got Donnarumma and Nuno Mendes at 10th place. And then let's look at 11 to 30. So you've got, actually, let's go from 30 to 11. Michael Lee said number 30, which seems quite low, in my opinion. Our boy Florian Wirtz, 29, low again. Virgil van Dijk, 28, low again. Declan Rice above Van Dijk, Wirtz, and Elise. Absolute madness. Dumfries ahead. Oh, sorry. Haaland, 26. That's low, if I'm being honest. Dumfries, 25th. God knows why. Fabian Ruiz probably should have been higher, to be fair. Jude Bellingham, yeah, I guess that's okay. Alexis McAllister, Guirassy, and then you've got Lautaro Martinez, João Neves, McTominay, number 18. Bloody hell. United fans look away. He's left the club, he's won the Serie A title, and he's, number 18 uh, in the Ballon d'Or rankings, with no United player on site. That is a crazy stat right there. Lewandowski, number 17. Vinicius, number 16. I'm not gonna lie, I think Lewandowski should have been above Vinicius for sure. Vinicius had a poor season for Real Madrid, in my opinion. So that one I'm too sure about. Victor Gyökeres, 15. Don't know about that. This will do a Harry Kane. Harry Kane seems a bit low. He should be in the top 10, in my opinion. Kvaratskhelia, maybe he should be a bit higher as well. And Pedri in number 11. So yeah, some crazy positions there, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I do feel like this trophy has lost elements of its credibility a little bit, if I'm being honest with you. For me, it doesn't reflect what you see on the pitch anymore. It's more about if you've got a great PR machine behind you, if you're popular. It's got those factors more than anything else, in my opinion. So I'm not a fan of these awards anymore. I'm not saying that because the Liverpool player didn't win it. It just feels like it's lost that authenticity a little bit. Where you know I always say when I watch football, my opinions are based on the eye test. It's not just stats. Stats are great to have for context and for debates, but you know, most of us should know when we watch a game who's a good player, who's not a good player, who's elite, who's not. And I don't feel like that's what these awards represent anymore. So I feel like a format change might need to be done, um, or maybe just have it where, like I mentioned, you have the categories: goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, then attacker, and then you have another one as the guy if you want it to be labeled as that. Um, but I don't know. It's one of those crazy ones where for them it's not really about appeasing the fan. It's mainly fitting within their agenda or what they feel like is best. And for it to come from just one country, as majority votes, for me doesn't sit well. But that's how it goes, I guess. No point of thinking about it or crashing out about it too much. It's just how it is, unfortunately. But as long as from a Liverpool point of view, if our team continues to win, um, these players will be regarded in high esteem amongst us fans. I think that's more important rather than individual accolades where there's always agendas. Let's not be around the bush. So for me, yeah, I don't think Salah will lose too much sleep, with being in fourth place. But hopefully it might fire him up to really deliver this season and it benefits us in that regards. That's it. Will you get Jamie on again? Obviously, of course, I definitely will. It's just that in recent like 2 or 3 weeks, I've been quite busy, so I've not really had um a lot of time to reach out to people and stuff. So for me, the next few weeks, I do plan on getting some people on the show. And Jamie's definitely one of them. He's a great, great friend. He's a great support of the channel. So yeah, I'll definitely try and get him on in due course as well. So yeah, definitely on the cards. Once I sort of, get things together, uh, on and off the podcast, I guess. So yeah, hopefully we'll get that done very soon. That would say similar to Aussie's, to be honest, I just hope Dan gets some minutes. I would like to see Dan get some minutes on the pitches, so that would be very, very good. And yeah, let's see how he does because I feel like we stopped him from getting a loan move in the summer, so definitely he's a player that is a viable option. So it'll be interesting to see, how he performs, and hopefully he does get some game time in this fixture. So that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to let's go through the chat. Thank you to Ozan Kabak, thank you to Dara, thank you to Double D, thank you to Daz, and thank you to Ens for your comments. As always, appreciate your engagement. As always, guys, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. In terms of upcoming shows, I will try and do live watch along tomorrow. I don't want to promise and not deliver. So the best thing to do is hit that notification bell so you know exactly what time I go live for the watch along. And then the following show after that will be on Thursday as I do the match preview of Crystal Palace versus Liverpool. So it should be an exciting encounter. We'll get to see Gay, of course, unfortunately not in a red shirt, but we'll face him this weekend. Um, Hopefully one of the two of the Liverpool players can have a word and say, make sure you come in January. So yeah, let's see how that happens. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.